Commercial transportation is the backbone of commerce in North America. The things we spend money on, groceries, clothing, even new cars, are all transported from where they're made to where they're sold by commercial trucks. In North America alone, there are more than 8 million registered commercial motor vehicles carrying freight on the highways. Professional truck drivers do their best to make sure that they and all the traffic around them are safe. When a crash involving a commercial motor vehicle occurs, injuries, property loss, and devastating fatalities are common results. 2 million truck inspections occur annually across North America, and they all serve one simple purpose: safety. In order to make this process equal to commercial drivers everywhere, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, in cooperation with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, designed a quick and thorough inspection procedure known as the North American Standard Inspection. The inspection concentrates on the driver's record of duty status or logbook, trip documents, and the vehicle's mechanical condition, with an emphasis on critical components. Not just anyone can perform a North American Standard inspection. All inspectors must successfully complete NAS inspection courses and maintain their formal certification to conduct inspections. The process begins with a safe location. The best place to conduct the inspection is on a paved, level surface away from traffic. Sites such as scales, rest areas, or wide places off the road can be used as long as the site is adequate for the vehicle. Stopping a commercial motor vehicle roadside takes more planning than stopping a passenger car. Trucks are much larger, heavier, and wider than regular cars. Officers need to know their patrol area well enough to pre-select sites where commercial vehicles can safely be stopped without disrupting the flow of traffic. Sites must be wide enough for a truck to leave the road. The ground should be level and solid enough to support the weight of the vehicle. Sites should also allow room for the truck to return into the flow of traffic. Above all, the location must be visible to other vehicles. Knowing where safe locations exist gives the officer more control of the stop. Always approach the vehicle with caution. Whether or not placards are displayed, be aware that hazardous materials may be present. Be alert, especially for any leaking or unsecured cargo. Stay alert for occupants other than the driver. Sometimes a right-side approach is a safer option. As you greet the driver, ask if you may open the door. Continue holding the door as you observe the driver's compartment. What is the driver's demeanor? Is the driver wearing a seatbelt? Be alert to any clues that might indicate driver impairment. Ask the driver about his current trip. Where has he been and where is he going? Is he transporting hazardous materials? Ask if there are any passengers, weapons, or alcohol inside the truck. Next, collect the driver's documents. These should include his driver's license or CDL, medical examiner's certificate and waiver if applicable, vehicle registrations, record of duty status, proof of periodic vehicle inspection, shipping papers or bills of lading, and any trip receipts. These documents should be carefully inspected. Confirm whether the cargo contains any hazardous materials. Is the cargo consistent with the shipping papers? The presence of placards and the shipping papers should alert you if the vehicle is transporting hazmat. Proper carrier identification is one of the most important steps in the inspection process. Accurate information is crucial to both regulatory agencies and the carriers. A thorough examination of the driver's paperwork is an essential element of the inspection process. Make sure the driver is qualified to transport the load and is conducting business according to all applicable regulations. After examining the paperwork, prepare the vehicle for inspection by chocking the wheels, having the driver place the transmission in neutral, ensuring the vehicle's air pressure is between 90 and 100 psi, that the engine is off, the brakes are released, and the ignition is in the on position. Begin the vehicle inspection at the front of the vehicle. Have the driver turn on all lights. Make sure each required light is present, securely mounted, operational, the proper color, and visible. 2 operational windshield wipers are required unless a single wiper can clean the driver's field of vision. Also, ensure that the windshield washers are functional. Verify that the tractor is equipped with 2 rear vision mirrors, and check the vehicle's horn. Beginning at the left side of the vehicle, inspect the tires, rims, wheels, and visible suspension and frame components. Steering axle tires must have a minimum tread depth of 4/32 of an inch, twice the depth of other tires. If a tread looks questionable, check a major groove with a depth gauge. Most fuel tanks can carry 100 gallons or more of diesel fuel or gasoline. A fuel tank not sufficiently secured or leaking is a hazard to everyone. Check that the air lines between the tractor and trailer are protected from chafing against any part of the vehicle. Make sure the lines have sufficient slack to allow the vehicle to turn. Make sure the line connections are properly seated. Listen for any audible air leaks. Air or electrical lines resting on the tractor platform will become chafed and worn. These defects could lead to electrical or brake failure. At the drive axles, inspect the tires, rims, wheels, and visible suspension components. Look for broken or missing springs and hangers. Check for leaking airbags. Also, search for any loose or missing bolts on any mounting hardware. Some rims have a locking ring that secures the tire to the rim. Keep away from a locking ring that isn't properly seated to the rim of an inflated tire. A locking ring will disengage from the rim with tremendous force if it is bent or misaligned. On disc wheels, look for any improper welds or cracks. Cracks between handholds may indicate overloading. Cracks between stud holes usually mean a loosely mounted wheel. With spoke wheels, pay particular attention to cracks across spokes and web areas. Look for scrubbed or polished areas on either side of a lug. This may indicate a slipped rim. Inspect each wheel on the vehicle for missing or loose lug nuts. Improperly inflated or overloaded tires are more easily damaged and susceptible to failure. Look for any areas where fabric or cord is exposed, either from wear or cuts. Check the sidewall for large bulges. Some small bulges are due to sectional repairs. Often, these spots are marked with a triangular label. Dual wheels are common on the drive and trailer axles. Look in between the tires for debris or contact with other components. Inside tires that are flat may not be obvious at first, but are generally not sealed at the rim and are easily shaken. The fifth wheel is in 2 parts. The lower half of the fifth wheel is part of the tractor. It connects to the upper half of the fifth wheel, which is part of the trailer. The kingpin on the upper half engages into the locking jaws of the lower half of the fifth wheel. On the fifth wheel unit, check for any signs of unsecured mounting to the frame and for any missing or damaged parts. Look for any visible space between the upper and lower fifth wheel plates. Verify that the release lever is seated properly and the safety latch is engaged. Verify that the locking jaws are around the shank and not the head of the kingpin. When checking the upper half of the fifth wheel, check for any damage to the weight-bearing plate and its supports. Look for cracks and loose or missing bolts on the trailer. Some tractors will have sliding lower fifth wheel halves. These are used to adjust the weight of the trailer further forward or back on the tractor wheels. When checking a sliding fifth wheel, make sure the locking mechanism is properly engaged. The teeth should be fully inserted into the rail. Look for worn or missing parts. Make sure that the position does not allow the tractor frame rails to contact the landing gear on the trailer during turns. A word of caution: never place yourself between tires of tandem axles. Have the driver step on the vehicle's brake and work the turn signals to verify all tractor lights are working properly. Move toward the rear of the trailer. Inspect the frame rails and cross members. Make sure to check the upper and lower frame rails and rivets for van and open-top trailers. Look for excessive corrosion, sagging, or cracks that can indicate a weakened frame. On trailers, whether enclosed or not, cargo must be secured such that it cannot leak or fall off the vehicle. At each trailer axle, inspect the tire, rim, and wheel. Check the suspension for cracks, misalignment, and missing leaves. If the vehicle is equipped with a sliding subframe or sliding tandems, check to make sure that they are properly locked. A sliding tandem allows the rear axles of the trailer to be adjusted to accommodate the weight of the cargo inside the trailer. If the vehicle is so equipped, make sure the sliding tandem is properly aligned and the locking pins are fully inserted into the holes of the frame. Look for damaged, worn, or missing components. Check that the handle is secure. At the back of the trailer, check that all lights are present, operational, and obvious to other traffic. Be sure to check reflectors and all other visible components. Inspect the rear end protection device. Check for cracked welds, loose bolts, size, and configuration. Is it adequate for the vehicle? Be aware that certain vehicles are exempt of having rear end protection, such as wheelback vehicles. Continue around the rear of the trailer. Stop at each axle. Additional safety devices are required on double and triple trailer configurations. Make sure all the components are present, secure, and in good condition. As you move toward the front of the trailer, again, check the frame rails and cross members. Spare tires are commonly carried in a rack beneath the trailer. If present, make sure the spare tire is securely mounted. Wherever cargo is visible, check for proper blocking and bracing. Confirm that the securement is adequate for the load. Make sure tie-down anchor points are secure and in good condition. Following your agency's policies and guidelines, have the driver open the trailer to check that large objects are properly secured. Some vehicles have exhaust systems that run vertically behind the tractor cab. Others have systems that run below the vehicle. Both should be secure and free of leaks. Excessive carbon deposits, especially around seams and clamps, can indicate holes or leaks. Finish inspecting the tires, rims, and wheels.
Okay, next what I'll have you do is go ahead and open up your hood.
Okay.
Ask the driver to open the hood of the tractor. This will allow you to see the steering components more easily.
Okay, go ahead and climb up in the cab and I'll have you rock your steering from left to right in a
Okay.
vigorous manner.
Look for loose, worn, damaged, or missing parts. Check that the steering gear box is secure and all bolts are present and tight. Check for any movement of the pitman arm on the steering gear box output shaft. Check for loose stud bolts, loose nuts, and any welded repairs to any of the steering components. You'll have to go under the vehicle to check steering components on cab-over tractors.
Okay, driver, next I'll go underneath the vehicle.
Before going underneath
place
any
the ignition
commercial
keys
vehicle,
on the floorboard.
make sure that the engine is off, the transmission is in neutral, all brakes are released, and the wheels are chocked. Always keep your body parallel to the frame rails. Never place yourself in a position where, if the vehicle moved, you could be run over or trapped. Seeing the underside of a vehicle will give you a very different perspective on the working components. If the steering axle components are not visible from the engine compartment, you'll need to go underneath the vehicle in full view of the driver. There are many types of suspension systems found on commercial motor vehicles today. The two most common are air suspension and leaf spring suspension. Leaf spring systems are common on the steering axles of the vehicle. Make sure that the leaves are not broken or missing and components are aligned and tight. Check that the U-bolts and spring hangers are secure and in good condition. Drive axles may have one of several types of suspension system, like H-beam, leaf spring, or air suspension. If the vehicle is supported by air suspension, Make sure that there are no excessive air leaks and that the air suspension is not deflated. If you're inspecting a cab-over unit, this may be a good time to check steering components. Make sure there are no loose or missing parts. Unstable joints can separate and cause loss of steering control. Be sure to look for any defects that might not be visible from the outside of the vehicle, such as cracks in the frame or axles. After examining the suspension and frame components, inspect the brakes on both sides of the axle. Make sure that all of the components are secure and functioning properly. Check the brake drums, shoes, rotors, pads, linings, brake chamber, the chamber mounting, push rods, and slack adjusters. Look for parts contaminated with oil or grease. Check the air reservoirs for secure attachment and leaks. Check for S-cam flip-over. Be alert for audible air leaks around brake components and lines. Mark the brake chamber pushrod at a point where the pushrod exits the brake chamber. Service brake chambers and spring brake chambers on each end of the axle must be the same size. In addition, all slack adjusters must be of the same length. Measure from the center of the S-cam shaft to the center of the clevis pin. Watch for different sized brake chambers. If you cannot see the chamber size stamp, measure the chamber's diameter. Check to see if you have standard or long stroke clamp type brake chambers. A word of caution, do not place yourself directly behind a spring brake chamber. Older models may be corroded inside and the steel springs can possibly explode through the back of the chamber. Contamination on brake linings or drums will affect the vehicle's stopping ability. Again, look for loose, cracked, or missing parts on the brake components. As you move toward the rear of the trailer, inspect the frame rails and cross members. Finish marking all of the push rods and check the frame, axles, suspension, air reservoirs, and all other critical components. As you exit from under the carriage of the vehicle, be sure to do so in plain view of the driver. Checking the brake adjustment on each axle begins by talking to the driver.
Next, we'll have you do is start the vehicle. We'll build up the air pressure to between 90 and 100 pounds psi.
It may be necessary to start and stop the engine to bring the system pressure to that level. With the engine off, instruct the driver to press and hold the brake pedal so that all the brakes are applied. After measuring the steering axle brakes, enter the undercarriage in full view of the driver. While the brakes are applied, move down the length of the vehicle, measuring and recording each pushrod travel. Remember to listen for air leaks in the system. As before, be sure to exit from under the carriage of the vehicle in plain view of the driver. Compare your measurements to the out-of-service criteria for the appropriate size and type of brake chamber. Proper brake adjustment ensures the greatest braking efficiency. Even under ideal conditions, commercial trucks require twice the braking distance of cars. The tractor protection valves are designed to seal off the tractor's air brake system in the event that the trailer becomes disconnected or develops a serious air leak. Have the driver verify the emergency brakes are released. After the driver disconnects the hose couplers or glad hands, have him lay them on the frame. Once the lines are disconnected, the air coming out of the supply emergency line should shut off almost immediately or around 60 to 70 psi or lower. If the air continues to escape below 20 psi, the tractor protection valve is defective and an out-of-service condition exists. After air stops flowing from the emergency line, have the driver make a brake application.
Okay, release.
If air is escaping from the service line, the tractor protection valve is defective.
Okay, driver, you could go ahead and reattach the hose couplers.
If any audible leaks were found in the air pressure system, test the vehicle's air loss rate. This test determines if the vehicle's air compressor can maintain air pressure while overcoming small leaks.
Go ahead and turn your key to the on position, and I'll have you pump your brakes down so we can check the low air warning device.
As the driver pumps the brake again and again, watch the gauges on the dashboard. The low air warning device must activate on or before 1/2 of the compressor governor cutout pressure or 55 psi, whichever is less. If the vehicle was manufactured after March 1st, 1975, the warning must be at least visible. If it was manufactured on or before March 1, 1975, the warning may be either audible or visible. The steering lash is the movement or play that occurs in the steering wheel before the front tires begin to turn. Excessive
driver,
lash
next we'll
can
check your
indicate
steering wheel
worn or
lash.
loose steering
Go ahead and start
components.
your engine.
Vehicles equipped with power steering must be running to measure steering lash. Make sure that the wheels are straight. Turn the steering wheel one direction until the tires begin to turn. Place a mark at a fixed reference point, such as a turn signal lever. Now move the wheel in the opposite direction until the tires begin to turn. Place a second mark at the same fixed reference point. Now measure the difference between the two marks. The amount of allowable lash varies with the diameter of the steering wheel. Compare your measurements to the regulations and the out-of-service criteria. Before leaving the cab area, verify that the vehicle is in compliance with any anti-lock brake system requirements for the year of manufacture of both the power unit and trailer.
Okay, next we're going to check for excessive fifth wheel movement. What I'll have you do is set the trailer brakes.
The fifth wheel coupler should be checked to make sure that there is no excessive play between the upper and lower plates. Use extreme caution. If this check is conducted improperly, serious damage can occur to the vehicle.
Okay, go ahead and start the engine. Rock your vehicle.
Be aware of your own
back and
personal
forth, very
safety as
gently.
you check the fifth wheel. Use caution and instruct the driver carefully. Have the driver gently rock the tractor back and forth. Watch for movement between the fifth wheel components.
Okay.
If there is noticeable movement, have the driver pull forward and hold to place pressure on the back of the kingpin. Have the driver set the brakes on the tractor, turn off the engine, and put his transmission in neutral. Replace the wheel chocks and carefully mark all of the fifth wheel components that move. Mark the kingpin plate and fifth wheel. Mark the pivot pin and pivot pin bracket. Mark the slider and the slider base. Remove the wheel chocks. Have the driver start his vehicle, release the tractor brakes, and put pressure on the front of the kingpin by backing up. Have the driver set his tractor brakes, turn off the vehicle, and set the trailer brakes. Carefully replace the wheel chocks and measure the difference in your marks. Check your measurements against the out-of-service criteria. When you're finished, make sure you recorded all of your information into the inspection report. It's a good idea to take the driver around the vehicle and explain any violations that you may have found. If the vehicle's violations caused it to be placed out of service, attach an out-of-service sticker and inform the driver of the corrections that must be made before his trip can be continued. If the vehicle is not in a safe location, have it towed or escorted to a safe place before placing the out-of-service sticker. Inform the driver that any non-out-of-service violations must be repaired before the truck is dispatched by the company. Vehicles that pass the North American Standard inspection receive a CVSA decal. The decal indicates to other jurisdictions that the truck has passed a recent inspection and they can focus their efforts on other vehicles. Your personal routine for inspecting a vehicle may vary slightly to accommodate differing policies within your jurisdiction and various types of commercial vehicles. The point is to be certain that all of the required critical components are inspected, as well as the driver and his paperwork. Your ultimate goal is to increase awareness and help reduce or prevent accidents. Inspections like the North American Standard allow you to monitor and enforce safe standards for all commercial motor vehicles. In doing this, you're helping achieve the goal of safety for everyone who travels our highways.
Oh, look, he's